Hi and welcome to A World of Words. I'm Vanessa and today I'm going to be doing my January reading wrap-up. So reading-wise this month I had a fairly average month. I read 4 books, but I really enjoyed every single book I read, so I feel like it was a really good reading month in that sense. So I'm just going to jump right into it and talk about them, because that's what these things are for. First book I read was Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief. This is a long series title. I finally read the first Percy Jackson book, and let me tell you, I loved it. It was so good. It was so cute, so funny. I knew I would probably like it because of how much I loved Magnus Chase, but I loved it. It was so much fun. It did remind me quite a bit of Harry Potter with the 3 main characters, like the trio. It had a very Harry, Ron, Hermione friendship vibe to me, but other than that, it was such a fun plot, and I love all of the Greek mythology that is woven in here because I love Greek mythology. I love mythology of all kinds really, but I feel like I am probably the most familiar with Greek mythology out of any mythology because I did study Greek mythology a little bit during my high school days, and I always loved Greek myths. I always loved reading about myths because they're fun and usually people have crazy powers and they don't make a whole lot of sense, but it's still really fun to read about them for some reason. But I really do feel like after reading this, I feel like I need to brush up on my Greek myths a little bit more because I do love how he's bringing in all of the things from mythology, but I feel like it'd be even more fun if I read up on mythology a little bit more, and so I'm doing so in a fun way. I actually filmed a book talk on this book already, so I will link that in the cards when that is available. I don't have enough good things to say about this. It was just so good. I definitely probably would have loved it when it came out as well, but I was already about mid-teens when this came out, so I thought it was like a kid's book at that point. But yes, I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and I'm not going to go too much into any more detail about this particular book because I did, like I said, I filmed a book talk on it, so if you want to hear more in-depth thoughts on that, that will be coming soon. Next book I read was Wayfarer by Alexandra Bracken. This cover is so shiny that it's like, can't hardly read it with my lights. Yeah, this book I really enjoyed. It's kind of on the long side, as you can see, so I feel like this is the main reason why I only read 4 books this month. Well, I tend to average about 4 books, but the Percy Jackson books are fairly short and I read them each pretty quickly. This book I think took me about 10 days to read because I was also kind of busy in January. I'm trying to focus more on my writing and things like that, so I was focusing more on some other things rather than reading quite as much in January, I feel like. If you don't know, this is the sequel to Passenger by Alexandra Bracken. It's the sequel and the final book in the duology. I think it's the Passenger duology. I'm not really sure what the name of the duology is, but it is about a girl who learns that she is part of this tangled family of travelers. They can travel between time and place. They can pass through these things called passages, which take them to different places at different times. So a specific passage will take you to, say, like 1700s New York City, and another one will take you to like Prague at a certain time. So you can't choose exactly what day and time you want to go to unless you know a passage that specifically goes to that day and time. But it's a really interesting way to do time travel, I feel like, because a lot of times in time travel you can pick exactly where you want to go and when, but this is kind of more, you have less control, so it makes it a little bit crazier and more complicated, a little bit more exciting in some ways, and So as I said, this is the sequel to Passenger, so I won't spoil Passenger in this book, but it did end on quite a cliffhanger, so I was very concerned for my beloved characters, Anna and Nicholas. I love them so much, and this book was just so good, and it ended very well in my opinion. It had a lot of action and craziness going on as well, so it did not disappoint at all. It kept its pace fairly well too, I feel like. There were a few parts that I feel were a little bit slow, but I think they were necessary for understanding what was going on because things changed quite a bit. Like, you learn so much more in this book than you did in Passenger. A lot of questions are answered. Some are still a little... There were a lot of surprises, a lot of twists and turns in this book, and I just loved it so much. I of course gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. It was just so good, and I really do wish that it wasn't over already. I feel like the way it ended off, we might potentially be able to get more with these characters in this world, but it is the end of the duology, so I'm not sure if that will happen, but if it does, I would be so happy. It was just such a fun book. I love the series so much. Not to mention they're beautiful to look at. They're also beautifully written. The story is just complicated and action-packed, and if you haven't read Passenger, I highly recommend you pick it up. And if you did read Passenger, you've got to read this book. I'm sure you're already planning to read it. It is such a good sequel and finale, and I'm sure you will not be disappointed. The next book I read was Seraphina by Rachel Hartman, and this is also the Reading and Rambling Book Club Book of the Month for January. We have not done our live show yet, so if this video goes up before the live show actually happens, I will leave the information either on the screen or in the description for when you can watch the live show. Otherwise, I will link it in the cards above if you want to go watch the discussion of this book. Also, while I was reading this book, I filmed a live reaction review. If you see my other live reaction reviews, you know it's basically just as I go along and read the book, I update with little video clips talking about how I felt at each point in the book, so I'm basically like reading it live, if that makes sense, and reacting to it on camera as I go through the book. I'm pretty sure this video will be out before that one is edited, so I will definitely link it once it is available so you can see all of my thoughts as I go through this book. But for a brief summary right now, this was so much fun to read. I love it. It is about a girl who has a secret, and it's in this society where people and dragons don't get along. It takes place in this Middle Ages city. There's this truce between people and dragons, but then it looks like a dragon possibly killed somebody in the royal family, so there is a mystery of if it is actually a dragon that killed them or if it's someone who's making it look like a dragon killed them because they don't like the peace and they want to start the war and they want to be able to kill dragons, and the dragons want to be able to kill people, and it's just kind of a tense situation between the people and the dragons are also able to shapeshift into a human form so they can walk around and look human. And it was just a really interesting book. It's pretty unique. I felt I haven't read anything like it at all. And the writing style I absolutely adored. I think Seraphina is just the most adorable character. I love her so much. And she does have a secret, and I'm not going to tell you what it is because that would spoil the beginning of the book. And there's also a romance, and it's got a lot of music in it, which I think is really interesting because I like it when music is described in books. It's kind of hard to describe in books, I feel like, but it's also really interesting and really fun when it is. And I love how much she loves music. I always love it when characters have a very strong passion, and like aside from the actual plot of the book, when they have something that they personally love, it makes the character so much more interesting when they have like something they are passionate about. And she loves music, and the way the music is described in this book is also really interesting, and I just felt like this book was very unique. The writing style was just wonderful. I loved it. It had a lot of funny parts. I feel like Seraphina is just a great narrator, and I can't wait to read the sequel because I have the sequel actually. I found both this one and Shadow Scale on clearance at Books A Million at different periods in time. I actually bought Shadow Scale pretty recently, so if you live near Books A Million, you might be able to still find it for $6 at Books A Million, and it's brand new and everything. And this isn't sponsored by Books A Million, I just like their clearance section. This was actually in the intermediate clearance section though, by the way. FYI, if you're interested in this book, you can try and see if it's still available for very cheap. Again, if you want to see all of my spoiler-filled reactions to this book, definitely check out my live reaction review when that is out. And finally, last but not least, I read Percy Jackson, The Sea of Monsters. I read the majority of this in one sitting. I read maybe 100 pages or so, I think, already, and then I just picked it up to read a little bit while I was waiting for something else, and I ended up just reading pretty much another 100 pages, and so then I was just like, well, now I gotta see how it ends, so I read the majority of this book in one day, a lot of it in one sitting, and it was so much fun. But it is the sequel, if you couldn't figure it out, to Percy Jackson, The Lightning Thief, and it introduced a couple new characters. It was just another fun quest adventure. I loved it. I am loving these characters so much. I think I like Annabeth a whole lot more in this one than in the first one. I did like Annabeth in the first one, but she was a little bit harsh to Percy, I felt. And in this one she is like basically his best friend, as it should be and as I had heard, so I really enjoyed that. I just love how he brings in different Greek mythology into the series, as I said about the Percy Jackson one. And I really love the characters and the adventure and how kind of episodic in the beginning a little bit, these first couple books, so I'm pretty sure we're like gearing up for a awesome finale for the last book, and I can kind of see where things are going a little bit, and that's really fun, and it's just really good and really enjoyable. And if you haven't read Percy Jackson like me, if you've been holding out because you think it is just a kid's book and you're too old now because you didn't read it when you were younger, definitely don't let that hold you back, because I'm enjoying it so much and I am way above the target audience for this book and I am loving them so much. So I highly recommend it. All ages can enjoy this series, and yes, it was so much fun. Rick Riordan has not disappointed me yet. So those are all of the books that I read in the month of January. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts on them were. Also, let me know what you've been reading in January, because I would love to chat with you about anything that you're reading. And please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I upload new videos on Mondays and every other Friday, plus the occasional surprise video, so please subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. And as always, thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye!